What makes us relevant is our weirdness, our uniqueness, the way we evolve, the way we give something fresh and new and unique to the world, to life. And only we can express it. Only we can express who we are, what's that special thing that makes us tick, by allowing all of ourselves to come out and celebrate it, to celebrate the good, the bad, and the ugly, to welcome all of it into the big shit show and put it on the canvas. This is our art. Who art thou? Who thou art is your weirdness.
This is Leah Steele, aka The Wealth Witch, and this is my podcast. I'm here to activate you to remembrance of your divine birthright to be wealthy in all areas of your life. This podcast is for people ready to have controversial conversations about the financial control, manipulation, and tyranny that faces humanity today.
I'm gonna live in freedom. I'm gonna live my destiny. I'm gonna live my freedom. I'm gonna live, the time is right now.
The Wealth Witch. It's for the people who are ready to wake up, deconstruct their wealth programming, and free themselves from the financial slavery consciousness that serves the global financial agenda. I'm committed to realizing a new global wealth paradigm where economic freedom is the reality and where you get to design and live the life of your dreams. Now let's do the damn thing. Hello, and welcome to a very special bonus episode of the Wealth Witch podcast. So I'm super excited to be sharing with you on my podcast, my husband, Sean Barnett's new podcast, the Sage Surfer Musings from the Lineup. I'm so proud of what Sean has been doing with this podcast. I have been harassing him to tell his story for a couple of years now, and he's finally done it. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, there are parts of me that feel like Sean's podcast is actually better than my podcast. But I really wanted to share this with you because I think that you'll really resonate with a lot of what he says in this particular episode that we've chosen. This is his episode 5, and it's all about your weirdness. And so my weirdo husband, Sean Barnett, is going to be talking to you in this episode about how you're too much and your weirdness is your superpower. And obviously, he puts things in much different terms than I do, but I think you'll really enjoy him. He is an incredible storyteller. He has had a life that not many people have had. His experiences have been, devastating and heartbreaking and difficult and tremendous and joyful and beautiful. He's traveled the world. He's done things that, I think many men just dream of being able to do, and is now living his dream life surfing every day in Bali, Indonesia. And he talks a lot about how he got here, how he got to this place, and shares with you his passions of occult wisdom and knowledge and teaching. And he is an etymology geek, something that he's passed on to me. And if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, you know that I'm constantly referencing different words and meanings of words that he's passed on to me. So I know that you are going to love this. So stay tuned for the Sage Surfer podcast, and then drop a review or send me a message and let me know what you thought of this. And if you love Sean's podcast, make sure that you follow it. And there's many, many other episodes that you can go check out if this resonates with you. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Musings from the Lineup. I am your host, the Sage Surfer. Now, from the time I was 8 years old, I dreamed of being a surfer and traveling the world, but the path to actualizing this dream twisted and turned through a world of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, as well as chronic incarceration, drug addiction, and suicidal ideations. Surfing is full of epic triumphs and disastrous failures, and in between waves, grounded in those healing waters of our beautiful mother, nature, there's a voice that whispers to those that will listen with an open heart. This podcast is for seekers of truth, merchants of love, and champions of will. Let's go. Greetings, fellow inhabitants of the beautiful Pachamama. Welcome to episode 5 of Musings from the Lineup, the podcast. Weirdness. Oh, weirdness. Being a weirdo. Being a weirdie. You know, when my wife and I and our entire team decided I was going to do Musings from the Lineup, we talked about, you know, should I just do it as Sean Barnett, or should I have a character? You know, how do I want to do it? And we came up with the Sage Surfer. It was this cool thing. And this guy that I really like and respect, who's sort of a cynical son of a bitch, but he's super cool. But he was like, I saw on your Instagram you changed to the Sage Surfer, right? And, you know, this kind of put down, right? This, you weirdo. And I could feel all that. I'm weird. I'm weird. I don't want to be weird. I want to fit in. That's too much, making myself the Sage Surfer. You know? I went through all that fear and insecurity and, what do people think about me? Right? Now, once I got through that, once I accepted that and said, oh yeah, here I have all this fear around that. I have all this insecurity. It's cool. You know, I realize why I do this. I know what I'm building. I know what this podcast, what the intention of this podcast, which is to add value to people and to learn how to articulate my life experience in a way that things can unfold. But my particular chemistry, or the way I'm built, my human design, is in such a way that I can't really learn anything unless it comes out my mouth. So a lot of times I get my foot in my mouth, or I've been told that my whole life. Oh, you think before you talk, or why don't you think before you talk? The way I'm built, I can't think before I talk. I have all these things that go on in my head, and then by expressing it or speaking it, that's how I figure it out or make sense out of things. So that's part of this thing. And that is weird, right? That's weird. I know that for some people are able to really think about things before they say it. They're real careful in what they say. For me, it just comes out, blah, 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 blah. And then I learn whatever came out of my mouth. I'm like, oh, and then I learn something. Then maybe I make adjustments, or I come up with a new belief pattern around whatever just came out of my mouth. Sometimes it's whatever I said is foolish. Sometimes it's cringeworthy, right? But that weirdness is what makes me unique. It's what gives me value. The word weird comes from a Scottish root, W-Y-R-D. I'm not sure if you say that like weird or word or whatever, weird. But W-Y-R-D is the root, or the etymological root word for the word weird, or our weirdness. And W-Y-R-D, the Scottish root word, weird or whatever, means the ability to manifest one's destiny. And it's so interesting that that's been these sort of in the first theme of these podcasts of Musings from the Lineup, the podcast. This concept of destiny. We've talked about fate and destiny and rituals, and now our weirdness. Our weirdness is the ability to manifest our destiny. Now, if you think about this, what anyone else can do that you can do really doesn't have value. That's why, like, taking out the garbage, like a garbage man or a janitor or whatever, it's never going to make a ton of money because anyone can do that. The things that we can all do, we can all pour a glass of water or make scrambled eggs or walk. I mean, not everybody, I guess, can walk, but you get what I'm saying. There are certain things that lots of people can do, and those things don't have high value. But there's a weirdness, a particular uniqueness in every individual, no matter how many humans that have ever been on this planet. As far as we know, no two have the same thumbprint. But if we look at anyone's thumbprint, they're very similar. I think it's that humans are like 98.7% similar, or maybe, let's call it 99% the same. That our species were 99% similar. Well, all that stuff is what makes us boring. All that stuff is what makes us useless, what makes us irrelevant to the conversation, to life, to evolution, everything. If we only stick with the 99%, our line will die off. It'll be self-evident. As a male, you won't be able to get laid, and produce offspring. But nature will have its way and weed the irrelevant out. It is self-evident in everything we see in nature. What makes us relevant is our weirdness, our uniqueness, the way we evolve, the way we give something fresh and new and unique to the world, to life. And only we can express it. Only we can express who we are, what's that special thing that makes us tick, by allowing all of ourselves to come out and celebrate it, to celebrate the good, the bad, and the ugly, to welcome all of it into the big shit show and put it on the canvas. This is our art. Who art thou? Who thou art is your weirdness. So for any of us that have been, I don't fit in. How am I going to be accepted? What should I be doing? What should I do with my life? Right? This type of thing. The should is the shit, the bad shit. You shit on yourself when you should on yourself. Right? We've heard that different ways. I don't think it came out very great with me just now, but fuck the shoulds. Fuck all the shoulds. What you should be doing, what your dad wants you to do, what your mom wants you to do, what your wife or your husband or your kids or your coach or your teacher or society or Glamour magazine or Sports Illustrated or, the political people or MSN or, whatever. MSM, mainstream media, whatever. All of those shoulds can fuck right off. All right? Be true to you. More importantly, be true to your weirdness. There's nothing I can say probably that has more value than that in any of these musings. When I was in Utah, you're going to move to Bali. You've never even been to Bali. You're going to be a surfer. You're fat. Your leg doesn't bend. You don't even know how to surf. You weirdo. That's not going to happen. That's not, back when I was a kid. I remember in my 20s, I was one of the only ones always doing the Tony Robbins stuff or whatever my circle of, I'm not the only one who was doing Tony Robbins. People all over the world were, but in my social circle, I was the only one pounding into my head because now my social circle was drug addicts and, basically drunks and drug addicts and sex addicts and just people without any type of responsibility. So, but at some level, I knew there was something great for me. I didn't know how long it would take for me to step into my weirdness. It took me until my late 40s to finally love my weirdness, to finally allow it to all come out. I'm 52 and truly, yes, I felt some, in my stomach, some fear, some low self-worth, or some not good enough when my buddy was flipping me shit for changing my Instagram to the Sage Surfer, this sort of who do you think you are type thing. But it lasted 15 seconds. I really could give a rat's ass what anyone thinks about what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing and I'm expressing myself, and I don't know what I'm doing. And that's the beauty. I know what I'm doing and I don't know what I'm doing. I know what the visions are of the life that I want, and I am doing everything I can to go after it. My experience thus far, especially over these last 3 years as my family has traveled the world and we've been to, I don't even know how many countries, like 15 countries in the last 3 years. And I've surfed all over. I've gotten barreled in Fiji. I've, surfed some of the most iconic waves on the planet. And I've really only been surfing a total of about 3 years in my life. Much of it, a fat dude just paddling, not actually surfing. Right? But my experience is there is no lack of energy. There is no lack of opportunity. There is no such thing as a lack of resources, only a lack of resourcefulness. There's only things blocking us from experiencing anything we want in life. There's only blockages of energy. There's no lack of energy. Energy is infinitely malleable and has infinite potential, and we can create literally whatever we can envision, whatever we can imagine. The only thing that we do is stop it from happening. And we stop it by trying to fit in. We stop it by giving into resistance and not paying attention to excitement. All destiny, all true destiny of soul, from my experience, is marked, or the sign, it's lit up, it's the way we know we're on the path of destiny, of the destiny of our soul, is excitement and resistance. Our excitements and our resistances. When we're resistive to doing something, that's the sign. When we're excited about doing something, that's the sign. And this navigating that, generally, my experience is when we allow the weirdness in its entirety of who we are. We don't edit, curtail, change, do something different for anybody. I'm going to surf. I'm a surfer. Period. Everything else will work out. I have a dream of traveling the world with a hot wife, happy family. I sure hope it's my kids. I sure hope it's my current wife. And so far, so good. I keep going. But nothing will stop me from surfing. Nothing is going to derail me from that until I die. That's just how it's got to be. If somehow I'm paralyzed before I die, I'm going to figure out a way to put me on a surfboard and have somebody push me into waves in my paralyzed state. I guess by that time it would be called like boogie boarding on my back or something like that. But regardless, you get the picture, right? This embracing the weirdness and how it works and how it seems to unravel this beautiful thing called destiny, or the life of my dreams, this going after the life of the dreams. And so I put a poll up a few years ago on Facebook. It was one of those, I was trying to build, I didn't know much about Facebook. My wife was making a ton of money through social media, and I was just trying to learn about it, I guess. And so someone's talked about these things called engagement posts, and I only did one or two of them ever. But it was like to build engagement in my posts. And so you ask these like just benign questions to get people to engage. You know, hey, if you could change anything in your life, what would it be? I did that one, I think. Or what's your greatest fear, I think. And then the other one was, if you could be anything, if you could be the best at anything in the world, what would it be? And I got I want to say close to 200 responses. And of the men, 70 to 80% of the men that responded said, if I could be the best at anything in the world, it would be surfing. And I looked into these people's profiles. I knew many of these men, and there were some women even, but the men in particular, I knew many of these men, and the ones that I didn't, just a real quick search through their Facebook profile, I could see none of them surfed. Now, don't get me wrong, there were a few of my surfing buddies that answered surfer. I would answer surfer myself. And so there were some that were surfing, but the overwhelming majority of the people that if they could be the best at anything in the world would be surfer, and they don't even surf. They're not even doing anything about it. Now, granted, for me, that's a genie wish. If I could be the best at anything in the world, it'd be surfer, right? And I'm cool with that's probably never going to happen, and that's not really important to me. What is important to me is that the thing that I wish I could be the very best at in the world, at least I'm doing it. I'm doing it. This hopefully adds value to you, the audience, the listener. It doesn't matter whether it's surfing, whether it's dancing, whether it's writing, whether it's singing, whether it's whatever. Maybe yours is, I want to be the greatest singer. If I could be anything, I would be the greatest singer in the world. Well, are you singing? How often are you singing? It's not about the comparison of being the best in the world. You know, for someone like Kelly Slater, his life was all about that, of being the best surfer in the world. And he accomplished it, and that's awesome. You know, maybe if I would have caught the vision earlier, but then again, that wasn't my fate. My fate is that I didn't really get the balls and the courage to go after it until I was 48 years old. And here I am, and I am following the destiny. I'm following that weird. See, and that's not all that weird. You know, but the fact that I'm philosophical, I swear, I'm an ex-drug addict, I'm a convicted felon, I'm, all of these other things that add, and I'm going to surf and have a super hot wife and all these, blah, 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 all this stuff, chasing my destiny, the results, which are phenomenal, when I sit with them and allow it to unfold, I see patterns. I see how it happened in hindsight. And then I come onto these musings and I share it with the audience. Not to tell you what to do. I don't care what you do. It's not about fixing you. You're not broken. Like I said in musing number 1, you cannot fuck up this cosmic joke. This cosmic joke is set in motion, and it is awesome. And we will all have a great laugh, the most thunderous, incredible laugh in the history of the universe. It is our fate. But our destiny has everything to do with how richly we enjoy this life, how how much of the nectar do we swallow? How present are we with this thing called life? How interested and curious are we about what's unfolding, what's coming from the depth of my guts, from my balls, from my heart, from my spine, from my core being? What wants to come out, and do I express it? Do I let it out artfully? Artfully. Who art thou, you fucking weirdo? Blessings, my friends. As always, truth, love, will, and heresy. Tune in next time for Musings from the Lineup, episode 6, where we will talk about devotion. Mwah.
Well, did you enjoy the show? I hope you enjoyed Sean's podcast as much as I do. And again, we would love to hear your feedback and what you thought. Feel free to email me at media@theleahsteele.com and let us know. And if you love Sean's podcast, make sure to go follow him everywhere podcasts are streamed. His podcast is the Sage Surfer Musings from the Lineup. Leave him a review. Let him know what you think of the podcast. And next week, I will be back with a regular edition of the Wealth Witch podcast. And so until then, remember it is your divine birthright to be wealthy in all areas of your life. And you are so worthy and you are so deserving. And make sure that you're tapping into your weirdness, because you're too much and your weirdness is your superpower. That's a wrap. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to connect with me on social media and reach out. I love hearing from you. And if you want more of me, real, raw, and uncensored, make sure to join the Wealth Witch Telegram channel. It's my free channel where I share all of my random daily musings, as well as the information that I feel like is important and pertinent to my community. We've put a link to the Telegram channel in the show notes, so make sure to come join us over there if that intrigues you. Remember, wealth is a mindset, and you are the most powerful creator in your reality. Until next time, this is the Wealth Witch signing off.
I'm gonna live the time.